Welcome to the COVID-19 version of the Rochester Mineralogical Symposium's What's New in Minerals Part 2. I'm John Betts, reporting from 98th and Broadway in New York City, where I've been holed up here for 6 weeks. I promise I put on my best sweatpants for this presentation. The What's New in Minerals Part 2 was originally started by Bill Pinch, Van King, and George Robinson, and was a core part of the Rochester Symposium. We are trying to pull that back together and bring in lots of different points of view. So I coordinate with Ray McDougall, Mark Jacobson, Jim Nizimoff. Ray sort of covers Canada and Europe. Mark, the West and Colorado specifically. Jim Nizimoff has connected everybody in Maine. And I am just covering the things that I see that cross my desk during the course of the year. All photos in the presentations, it's assumed that they are the presenters unless otherwise noted. So let's begin. That video was a new quartz out of Nepal. There's no shortage of them out there, and but the video is quite nice. So starting with some eye candy, here's a 204 kilogram cluster of aquamarine and quartz found in the summer of 2019. It's amazing how they were able to glue those aquamarine crystals in there, make them look so natural. But in reality, I think this is supposed to be a genuine cluster, and it was in fact found on the roof of the cavity, and they had to excavate it and get it out safely. In the museum world, there's great news that the main Gem and Mineral Museum is now open. It did a series of soft openings in October, November, and then opened to the public in December of 2019. The museum's located in Bethel, Maine. It's a 15,000 square foot museum dedicated to the minerals and mining history of Maine, as well as the founder's meteorite collection, which is one of the best, if not the best, collection of meteorites in the United States. The museum was founded by Larry Stifler and his wife Mary McFadden, and they acquired 2 buildings in downtown Bethel, built a addition between the two as sort of a entry center, and it is well worth the trip if you are up in Maine. It's about an hour-and-a-half drive north of Portland, which is down on the coast, where most people go, but this is right in the foothills of the White Mountains, and it's a lovely place to visit and well worth visiting. The Ruggles mine, famous pegmatite mine known for radioactive minerals, has been closed since 2016 and on the market through the regular real estate market, amazingly. It's situated high on a hill, and of course the fear was it was going to be turned into a housing development. Probably the radon and the pegmatite was not conducive to building houses. So the mine sold in September of last year for $500,000 to a couple of New Yorkers who plan to upgrade the site as continue as a tourist attraction, and it will reopen sometime in the future. If you do go, I highly recommend collecting on the parking lot, which is constructed from the dump material. I found several beryl crystals just casually walking around the parking lot. So it does pay to look, and it is a good place for collecting minerals. In Connecticut, the Slocum Quarry in East Hampton has been reopened, available for clubs for collecting. It was an old site in the 1960s where they put in a blast on Fridays, and collectors could go in on Saturday and Sunday for a fee and collect. It's most known for the Heliodor yellow beryl crystals, but there are bertrandites and pseudomorphs and lots of other minerals. So this is the same. The owner is the same person that owns the Hewitt Quarry, which is another location that has recently been reopened to clubs. So if there are any clubs out there that have collected the Hewitt, you can now contact the same fellow and get access to the Slocum. The fees are not insignificant, but it's well worth it since it's a great location and clubs are at a loss for places to collect these days. Now I'm going to get into an area of sort of questionable, marginal minerals that are sort of new and be on guard for. In Tucson, Gunnar Faber had native zinc crystals from Germany, from the Brumbach Creek. How they formed, how native zinc formed, is unknown. They have not really come up with a possible natural explanation. There are other minerals, there are copper zinc minerals associated with them at the site. It's speculated, but it's pure speculation, that these are from old mine dumps or smelting process or something man-made. But records for the area date to the early 1500s, and as far back as then, they did not have any recorded mining in the area, so it's unclear where the mine was, what the mine was. But I don't really think that they should be properly called native zinc. They could be called zinc crystals, but you could grow zinc crystals in the lab. Another fake that showed up in Tucson were these calcite crystals glued on the stalactitic quartz from India. You can see the sign in the bottom photo. It says repaired calcite. Well, not really. They should say fabricated calcite, because the calcite was glued on and then the stalactites were coated with glue and powdered stone dust was put on the glue to conceal the assembly. And they're quite convincing, but they are not natural and should not be sold as repaired. A recent fake that showed up on the Friends of Minerals forum, which I highly recommend. Joe D'Oliveira was inquiring and sort of came up with the answer in his research, but these were sulfur crystals listed as from Tengchong, Yunnan, China, and it became clear after digging that his source finally reported that none of the mines in China produce natural sulfur in crystalline form. And so the bottom line is, if it's sulfur from China, assume it's fake. This is sort of not really a fake, it's enhanced. These are fluorite and quartz clusters. It showed up from Crystal Classics, Ian Bruce's company, and they're doing vacuum vapor deposition similar to the quartz crystals that they're doing in Arkansas, but they're coating fluorite from Weardale and quartz from Weardale. And so these are enhanced crystals and not natural. This jelly fluorite from Fujian, China, highly transparent, color zone, purple centers, green outside, have been shown up, and it is unclear whether this is another iteration of the irradiated fluorite that showed up in China a year ago. You can still buy these. This is an eBay seller, Chinese Minerals on eBay. And it's unclear whether they're natural, but the internal clarity is stunning, but whether the color is natural is unclear. The pink fluorite from the Huanggan mine in Inner Mongolia, China, was everywhere in Tucson. Just about everybody had some. It varied from the deep pink to moderate pink, and looked reminiscent of some of the Swiss specimens when they're at their best. The big question was, is the color stable? And so I acquired two equal crystals. One was kept in the dark for the test, and another one was put in sunlight for the course of 2 months, or put in daylight and outdoors, so it was exposed to sunlight part of the day and open sky the rest of the day. There is no noticeable color shift. Now, it could be that the pink, the pale pink crystals have already been faded, and that they started out as deep pink and they go only to a certain point. But I suspect that really the color is stable, and so you're safe in displaying these specimens. The big news as far as collections being dispersed, Rock Courier's collection, it continues to be dispersed. It started a year ago in Tucson, and then there was the large heritage auction in Dallas that yielded prices that looked like zip codes and telephone numbers. It was quite stunning. Big prices, a lot of competition for the very best noteworthy pieces. Rock, of course, was the founder and proprietor of Jewel Tunnel Imports and traveled the world, and every time he got a piece that just sort of piqued his curiosity, he would set it aside for his private collection. And so these pieces are now being dispersed, most recently at Tucson in January of this year. They are also selling on Instagram with the username Crystals Not Pistols, and they'll post a video of a piece once or twice a day with prices, and you just direct message them. They will send it to you. Very easy and very professional. These are some of the pieces that I picked up for my collection. There's a spessartine garnet on the left from Brazil, which is quite surprising in quality and clarity for Brazil. You just don't see these recently. This is clearly an old piece. A millerite from the Sterling Mine in Antwerp, New York. There were several pieces available, and I picked up 2 of them actually. Mimetite from Tsumeb, Namibia, nice little miniature. The pink crystal on the left is a fluorapatite crystal also from Brazil, very clean internally. The lower middle is a kumangite over boleite, the classic 6-pointed star formation from the Boleo, Mexico locality. And a rutile 8ling from Magnet Cove. So these are great little minerals. The prices are full retail, so if you're out and buying, you're not getting any bargains, but some great quality and minerals that we don't see anymore. This is a follow-up to the video that I closed last Rochester What's New in Minerals, which there's a screen capture on the upper left of Mary Freeman pulling out this large green tourmaline from Mount Mica, Maine, that is by far the best crystal ever found. It came out in 3 or 4 segments. The specimen has now been cleaned and repaired, and you can see it on the right-hand side. And it's about 10 or 11, 25 centimeters high. And it is just a wonderful, wonderful specimen. It will go down in the record books, and all of these pieces are being kept by Gary Freeman and Mary Freeman. They have a treasure, and they know they're not going to let it go. Jim Nizimoff and Jeff Morrison were working the Crooker Quarry last year and encountered a pocket in September about a meter and a half by 1 by half meter that contained montebracite crystals to 15 centimeters, which is quite good for the species. Of course, getting crystals of montebracite is always rare. It tends to be massive. But here is a 3.7 centimeter crystal on the left and a 7.3 centimeter crystal on the right. They also opened a number of pockets containing thousands of small blue tourmaline crystals to 38 millimeters. That's a 38 millimeter crystal on the right. The center top photo shows one of these tourmalines on rear illuminated polarized light, and you can see the internal color zones towards the termination that needs more study to see what's going on there as far as what possible impurities. Then the lower left is an image of the pocket material as it's being washed, showing the number of crystal segments coming out, many of which were not terminated, but it's still a noteworthy find. They also found fluorapatite crystals. This is a specimen, the cluster, the fluorapatite group itself is 25 millimeters across, and they found quartz crystals up to quite large. I believe it was 25 centimeters. I'm sorry, I don't have the email in front of me, but good find, and it's great to see that location being worked again. Jeff Morrison, also owner of the Havey Quarry, opened the blue tourmaline pocket in November. It was just under a meter in size, and it produced blue tourmaline crystals to 12 centimeters. You'll note that I'm saying blue tourmaline. They've muddled the names of tourmaline. In the old days, we just called it elbaite, but now there are so many species of tourmaline, they've got to be tested to determine exactly what the new species is. But blue tourmaline crystals to 12 centimeters, some of which had red caps. One crystal had two, it was doubly terminated, had red caps at both ends, or pink caps. And the associated minerals include smoky quartz, which you can see a large smoky quartz group sticking out of the pocket on the upper right, and columns of lepidolite, and then masses of blue fluorapatite. On the upper left is a large smoky quartz crystal with a group of lepidolite and the blue fluorapatite on it, and a couple more examples of the blue tourmaline. Beautiful, beautiful crystals. At the old Rose Quartz locality, Mike O'Neill's been working that location for several years, but this year he showed up with, late in the year, with fibrous tourmaline, sort of fibrous bluish gray tourmaline associated with rose quartz crystals and on the feldspar. The specimens showed up at a swap they had at the Havey Quarry in September, and also Jonathan Fagan was selling them in Denver. Down to Arizona, just before the Tucson show opened in January this year, a new pocket was opened at the Washington Camp Quartz site. It's a 1.5 mile long quartz exposure that is known for Japan Law twin quartz, and they opened a cavity. On the upper right, you can see a couple of clusters that were cleaned just prior to the show with several Japan Law twin pairs. But most of the find was so new that it hadn't been cleaned yet, so they had a few flats on the floor of dirty pieces still with roots and organic matter in the crevices, and desperately in need of cleaning. This was a large plate about 20 inches across with many, many pairs of twins. And this was at the 22nd Street show in Tucson, which is not a show that you think of for good quality minerals. It just shows that you've got to walk around and look at everything when you're in Tucson. Up in Canada, Herb Hyder is collecting, he's got a claim called the Blue Jay Claim near Revelstoke, British Columbia. It's a granite intrusion with quartz veins that have pegmatite cavities, and adjacent are skarn minerals. So he's getting these zoned corundum crystals that you can see the lower left when it's rear illuminated has alternating color zones. The lower center shows it in front illumination. Very interesting, neat little crystals. He's got this place He's doing a great job. Collecting. Here are some shoral tourmalines from the same deposit. You get a sense of the setting in the right-hand picture, where you can see the valley floor below and the scree slope that he's collecting in. Shoral crystals. So, sorry, I have to remember not to talk between transitions because this does not record. Herb's also getting garnet crystals, quite large. It's unknown which species. They may be almandine, grossular. It's unclear, but you can see they're nicely developed and fairly large. The same area is producing kyanite crystals, and in the lower center is a large feldspar crystal, probably microcline. And the right-hand side is a cavity containing translucent green fluorapatite. Down in Mexico, let's look at the new species discovered at the Milpias mine in Cuitaca. The most recent were dioptase crystals, transparent, bluish-green, greenish-blue, prismatic crystals to 4 millimeters, overgrown on shattuckite and chrysocolla. It's interesting that this mine just keeps producing more and more different species every year. Another new find from the Milpias mine is large crystals of dark green-black olivenite, crystals to 30 millimeters. The one on the right is a thumbnail with crystals to about 25 millimeters, and the one on the left is a specimen that Peter McGaw posted to Mindat with crystals to 30 millimeters. A new location is Rancho Jacalito in Cuitaca. It is near the Milpias mine. Spirifer Minerals had these beautiful shattuckite specimens, velvety tufts of acicular blue shattuckite that looked fairly similar to the shattuckite found in Kandezi in the Kalkaveld of Namibia. Budantite from the Cocineras mine in Santa Eulalia, crystals to 3 millimeters, which is pretty good for the species, associated with other phosphates and sulfates, including corkite. But the budantite are the most notable. They occur in shallow cavities in sort of a limonite gossan. The Cocineras mine is also producing fluorite crystals with translucent gray fluorite cubic crystals with purple tetrahexahedral edge faces. You can see that in the right-hand photo. The fluorite crystals themselves are about 1 millimeter, but so they do require some magnification to really appreciate them. But they occur in sizable specimens. The specimen on the left is about 5 centimeters across. The Cocineras mine also produces fluorite pseudomorphs after calcite. This one on the upper left is shown on the bottom, where it has a hollow center core where it formed over what appears to be scalenihedral calcite. Noteworthy is the surfaces. It shows on the right-hand photo, the surfaces are all botryoidal or spherical aggregates of fluorite crystals. If you actually look at a very high magnification, you can see little tiny cubic faces on the fluorite, but they're translucent purple over an earlier white generation, and those cover all of the surfaces front and back. Another new Mexican locality, La Morita mine in Ascension, Chihuahua, Mexico. First, let's start with a word of caution that many dealers, notably Spirifer and several others, Collector's Edge, are listing the locality as the Morita mine in Sierra Mojena district, And this is confusing and inaccurate. I have verified with Peter McGaw that the mine that's producing the wolfenite is the La Morita mine in Ascension. It's a commercial silver, lead, zinc mine operated by Camex that the miners are doing typical lunchbox collecting, where they're bringing, preserving and bringing specimens out, selling them into the market to wholesalers in Tucson. The wolfenite crystals tend to be thin, platy crystals varying from transparent to translucent, yellow, yellow-orange, orange, and often are intermixed or overgrown with translucent yellow mimetite. The lower specimen, you can see that the mimetite grew only on the broad faces of the wolfenite crystals, that the edges of all of the crystals are still exposed of the wolfenite. So you see these thin edges surrounded by the mimetite. The old San Carlos mine. Every time I see an old collection from the 1960s, there's always specimens of vanadinite from the San Carlos mine, but we haven't seen any recent in many, many years. Well, the rights were finally acquired by Top Gem, the wholesaler in Tucson, Arizona, and they reopened the mine in 2019 and are finding more vanadinites associated with colorless calcite. Many of the vanadinite crystals are in subparallel or parallel aggregates, often with hoppered terminations like the one on the right, with color varying from butterscotch to red-orange to sort of an orange-brown. Very, very aesthetic, widely available. Going to Europe, Monte Assiccio mine in Lucca, Italy. Simone Pardini in 2019 found a wonderful deposit of coquimbite associated with krausite and halotrichite. The coquimbite were large, transparent, translucent purple crystals to 6 centimeters. That's 60 millimeters. That's quite large. The halotrichite, the lower left photo, the sort of the 6 to 9 o'clock position of the specimen is a fine mat of acicular halotrichite crystals. The specimens are water soluble. The coquimbite is water soluble. They're being sold in the Euro style display boxes that are sealed. I recommend keeping them sealed, or at least putting in a little packet of silica gel if you are living in a humid environment. I certainly am keeping mine sealed. In Poland, the Lubin mine they opened a pocket in 2018. It was a 30-meter pocket known as Rutina's pocket that produced the sort of helictitic translucent brown barite overgrown with fine yellow metallic pyrite crystals. And they were so widely available in so many different forms. I was like a mule starving to death between two haystacks. I couldn't decide which one I wanted to buy, and I ended up buying nothing. A brand new find of stunningly beautiful scepter habit amethyst crystals from the Czech Republic. They were found it was a weathered quartz vein that was exposed in a farmer's field. You can see the lower left photo of some of an amethyst crystal still in the soil. It was collected by Marcel Vanek with heavy equipment to dig down, and they got some stunning large scepters. This is so new that there's only 3 photos on mindat.org. These are photos posted by Marcel Vanek on. They showed up on both Facebook and Facebook on the right and Mindat on the left. No other information is known about this, but certainly we're going to hear more. Let's hope they found lots that were intact and undamaged. In Maine, a small dealer showed up with these transparent calcite crystals with yellow phantoms on the inside. I don't know if you can see it in the one on the lower left, but there's a large crystal with a distinct yellow phantom in there. It's unknown what the inclusions were that were forming the phantom. I sent one specimen to John Attard for identification, and he dissolved the calcite, and it turned out dissolving almost everything, probably including the included material. We still don't know what it is. However, the locality is in the Loralai area of Pakistan, not far from the locality producing the bright yellow brucite specimens that have been so plentiful in the last 4 years. So it's speculated that the inclusions may be brucite that formed over an earlier generation of the calcite that was then overgrown. And they have these surfaces, outer surfaces that are quite complex, that are natural. It looks like they've been dissolved in calcite, but it appears under a microscope that they were not etched at all. It's just the way they formed. And those are crystals to about 40 millimeters. Quartz scepters from the Chibikul mine in Zimbabwe. These are smoky to amethyst color over colorless stem of quartz crystals to 20 centimeters at least that I saw. And you can see in the lower left, many of them have red hematite or red inclusions of an unknown mineral, but assumed to be hematite, not unlike those from Arango. Sadly, most of them are damaged. Either the tip is chipped, or the stem has broken off, or they were just abused, carried down the mountain in a bucket with a bunch of others on a lame donkey. As a result, getting a good, clean one is next to impossible, and you'll pay dearly, unfortunately. Sapphirine from Farafangana, Madagascar, up to 30 millimeters. They were available from Laurent Thomas of Polychrome, France. On the lower left is a 28 millimeter crystal donated to the Paris School of Mines. And on the right is a 30 millimeter crystal I was able to acquire. And those are quite large for the species. There's hope that more of them will be found in the future. Back to Laurent Thomas in Madagascar. At Beravina, a new species was found named after him, Laurent Thomasite, and it's a beryllium silicate, and it forms in these sort of columnar aggregates, which I guess are single crystals, but you can see in the lower right there is sort of a structure that when you turn it and backlight it, which is what the lower left is, you almost get a fiber optic effect of light coming through. And they're dichroic, where they're blue when looked down the c-axis, and then they're green when off-axis. And at least one of them I saw was lapidary quality. Most of the crystals were in the 10 to 20 millimeter range at the most, but there were a few large ones in excess of 35 millimeters. Just cruising around Facebook, there's a group of Australian mineral collectors that share their finds, and Patrick Gunderson shared his photo of the finds for 2019 at O'Brien's Creek in Queensland. It looks just like, this could be Arango, this could be Mount Antero. It's quite stunning. So they're getting smoky quartz crystals, deep blue aquamarine crystals, feldspar crystals, probably microcline in nice parallel aggregates, and colorless to brown phenakite crystals. I don't know why we don't see more of these here in the United States, but man, nice digging. Good place to go. In Russia, they are now getting azurite crystals in the southern Ural Mountains. I won't even make an attempt at pronouncing the locality. The nodules seem to be about 60 millimeters, 6 centimeters, and they are being sawn open to reveal the shrinkage cavities lined with lustrous azurite crystals to about 0.2 of a millimeter, small but very showy. Unfortunately, the diggers don't seem to value matched pairs, and so they're selling them individually. I had to go through several trays to find 2 that were matched halves so that I could have both halves of the nodule. This is not uncommon with agate dealers also, that they will saw a nodule open and they'll sell 1/2 without thinking that the value of 2 together is more valuable. So I value the matched pairs, and if you look around, you can find these. I'm sure a lot of them are being used as earrings in the jewelry trade, but they're quite showy, and at least it's new. And I'm going to conclude, as always, with a video of, this is Peter Lickberg underground in Volodyarsk, Ukraine, in March of this year. And here he has a wonderful green heliodor, or green beryl. As you look at this, they're going to turn off the light and backlight it so you get a sense of how clear it is. It's flawless internally. It is just wonderful. There's a higher resolution version on the internet, and I encourage you to go down and go chase it down. But that will conclude my presentation, and I hope everybody stays safe and healthy.